Where are you, honey? Don't you want to see what you did to me?
Chuck was taken aback when he discovered rainwater seeping into the luxurious bungalow he had recently purchased at a considerable cost. Frustrated, he photographed the damage and forwarded the images to the property agent, silently blaming him for the oversight. Concerned about further issues, Chuck proceeded to his wife Maria's design studio to inspect for leaks. Maria, a fashion designer, was in the middle of a live session, sharing her creative process. Fortunately, her workspace remained unaffected. While in the studio, Chuck noticed an old mannequin tucked in the corner, one Maria was particularly fond of and had insisted on bringing to their new home. He then stepped outside to examine the rest of the property. During his inspection, he encountered a neighbor named Larry, who expressed surprise that the bungalow had been sold. In their conversation, Larry revealed that the previous owner had died by suicide in the house, an unsettling fact the agent had never disclosed. Disturbed, Chuck returned indoors and reviewed the photos of the leak. To his shock, one image appeared to show a shotgun, despite there being no firearms in the house. Confused and unsettled, he tried to make sense of the anomaly. The following morning, while walking through the garden, Chuck was startled to find Maria's mannequin inexplicably positioned outside. Larry happened to pass by again and joined him in examining the scene. Chuck began to suspect that his younger sister, who had been mentally unstable since their mother's recent accident, might be behind the strange occurrences. Larry advised him to monitor her condition closely and suggested visiting the local public library to learn more about the area's history. He also invited Chuck to attend a meeting hosted by a local community group. Later that afternoon, Chuck visited the library and eventually found a book detailing the village's deep-rooted history. As he prepared to leave, he noticed several books scattered across the floor. Nearby sat a young woman named Ashley, visibly distressed and crying. She warned Chuck against delving too deeply into the village's secrets, cautioning that doing so could lead to dangerous consequences. Chuck dismissed her concerns and proceeded to the counter with the books. Upon seeing the titles, the librarian's demeanor changed abruptly. She warned Chuck not to investigate the location referenced in the texts, claiming no one had ever successfully reached it. Chuck assured her that he was merely interested in the historical context and mentioned the crying girl and the disarrayed books. The librarian grew serious and quickly departed, leaving Chuck to return home in silence. That evening, Chuck began reading about a secret conference held in 1980, as detailed in the books. His focus was interrupted by the doorbell. His former student Olivia had arrived for a music lesson. Chuck, a music teacher, welcomed her as a new student attending for the first time. Olivia appeared nervous, prompting Chuck to fetch water from the kitchen to ease the tension. Suddenly, the sound of piano music filled the room, performed with remarkable skill. Chuck turned to find Olivia standing at the kitchen door, equally stunned. As he approached the piano, the music ceased, and the mysterious woman Olivia had mentioned was nowhere to be found. Terrified, Olivia fled the house. Later that night, with Maria away on business, Chuck attended the garden club meeting Larry had recommended. The gathering, attended by only 6 individuals, including the librarian, focused on a sensitive topic rarely discussed in the village. They spoke about Helen Foster, a young girl who had recently attempted suicide. The librarian noted that the incident echoed a tragedy from 1980, when a woman named Helen had taken her own life after her daughter endured relentless bullying at school, with no one stepping in to help. In a moment of profound grief and rage, Helen took her own life within the walls of her home. Since that tragic event, the village has witnessed a mysterious suicide each year. Locals believe these incidents are linked to Helen's restless spirit and that they will persist until the truth about her now lost house is finally uncovered. The community meeting discussing these events grew increasingly unsettling, prompting attendees to end it prematurely. As Chuck stepped outside, he was startled by the eerie sound of a woman's laughter emanating from the nearby abandoned church. Alarmed, he hurried home and went straight to his sister Isabel's room. Isabel was still grappling with the emotional aftermath of their mother's recent death. She frequently experienced nightmares in which she saw their mother repeatedly, and would often confide in Chuck to ease her distress. That evening, her school friend Luke came to visit. Having grown up in the village, Luke was well versed in its darker folklore and recounted Helen's suicide in vivid detail. That night, while Isabel slept, the bathroom light inexplicably turned on. She got up to switch it off, but it illuminated again moments later. Assuming a faulty switch, she removed the bulb and placed it on her bedside table. However, as she tried to sleep, strange occurrences continued. The next morning, sunlight filled the room, and Isabel initially dismissed the events as a bad dream, until she saw the bulb still on the table, confirming the previous night's reality. She immediately informed Luke. Just then, Chuck called and urged Isabel to return home. Upon arrival, she found Maria, her sister-in-law, visibly shaken. Earlier, while hosting a live session in her design studio, Maria had witnessed the mannequin behind her begin to move on its own. Her best friend, watching the session, called to alert her, but Maria misunderstood the concern as being related to the bridal dress she was showcasing. She responded with a video assuring that the dress was ready. When Maria resumed the session, she was stunned to find the mannequin gone, without having noticed it move. Her friends flooded her with messages urging her to leave the room. A loud noise from the adjacent room startled her, and despite her fear, she cautiously investigated. It was then that she grasped the unsettling truth about the mannequin. Chuck arrived promptly after hearing the account, and together they burned the mannequin. He explained that the bungalow's previous owner had died by suicide, possibly leaving behind a residual negative energy. The family decided to vacate the property. Isabel was instructed to pack and move into her college hostel, with Luke assisting. While helping, Luke noticed a photograph of Isabel and her mother. He remarked that the woman in the picture looked nothing like Isabel's description and that the image itself felt strangely altered. Isabel, stunned, revealed that her mother had died in an accident just months earlier. Luke was visibly shaken, having recently seen someone resembling Isabel's mother inside the house. As they tried to make sense of the revelation, a sudden clatter of utensils from the kitchen drew their attention. They rushed downstairs, only to find the atmosphere had drastically changed. An unnatural chill filled the room, accompanied by faint, sorrowful sobs. Overwhelmed, Luke made an excuse and left. Moments later, Isabel heard her name whispered from behind. She turned, but no one was there. Maria arrived and tried to dissuade her from investigating further, but Isabel was determined to uncover the truth. Both retreated to their rooms in fear. Soon after, a scream echoed from Maria's room. Isabel rushed to find the door slowly creaking open. Maria, terrified and crying, fled into Isabel's room. Blood dripped from her nose, though she seemed unaware of it. As the situation settled, Luke returned once more. Holding an old map, the man explained that by cross-referencing a 1923 city planner's book with current urban layouts, he had pinpointed the exact location of a long-forgotten property, 825 Forest Road. Meanwhile, Chuck had resolved to confront the individual who had betrayed his wife. Isabel insisted on accompanying him. Just then, a visiting agent arrived seeking assistance with an advertisement shoot. Although Chuck had to leave urgently, Maria, who had only recently begun to feel emotionally stable, agreed to help the agent. Sensing something unusual, Isabel asked Luke to stay with Maria while she and Chuck set off toward the mysterious address. During the drive, Chuck declared that if the location turned out to be the same house, he would burn it down. Back at the bungalow, Maria was assisting with the shoot when the agent suddenly began speaking in an unfamiliar, cryptic language. Meanwhile, Chuck and Isabel navigated through a dense forest and arrived at a dilapidated house. They broke a window to gain entry and searched for any sign of the house number. Upon reaching the upper floor, they were stunned to find the interior identical to Chuck's own home. A shadow passed behind them, heightening the tension. At that very moment, Maria, still at home, began recounting a traumatic incident from 1980. She spoke of her daughter being severely bullied at school and her repeated, unanswered pleas for help. In truth, Maria had become possessed by the spirit of a woman who had taken her own life years earlier. Back in the ruined house, Chuck discovered a wooden box buried underground. Inside were several letters addressed to the school, all written in the same handwriting and returned unopened. The sender's address was listed as 825 Forest Road. Chuck realized that the current house was indeed the same as the one from the past. The spirit had returned to reclaim her former home. He rushed upstairs to retrieve Isabel, but found her standing motionless. Meanwhile, Luke had grown increasingly suspicious of Maria's behavior. He asked her directly for her daughter's name. Maria responded with a sudden outburst, screaming and laughing hysterically. Moments later, silence fell. Luke assumed the spirit had departed, but just then, Isabel's eyes widened in terror. An invisible hand had gripped her shoulder. Chuck saw it and rushed to intervene, but both he and Isabel were abruptly pulled into the old room by an unseen force. And with that, the story concludes. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more chilling horror tales like this one. Have a nice day.